Hello and welcome back. The premise at FM23 Roleplay is we take a 15-year-old American kid, give him a 200 potential rating in Football Manager, and follow him throughout his career. We will not be coaching any club. We will not interfere with the player's development by using the editor. So, will he become a great player? Well, we'll have to watch. So, after recovering from a twisted ankle and spending most of his time on the bench with six off the bench appearances to his name, as you can see right here, he received a shock which was shared by his teammates and most of U.S. soccer. FM manager Wayne Rooney was fired by DC, as we can see here. He was sacked. He didn't even get a chance to finish his season. DC United is in 14th place in the Eastern Conference, and with the fewest points of any of the MLS teams in that conference here. Only 18 points on the season. They had three straight losses, including a loss against the New York Red Bulls, which are Washington's rival, and that ended his nascent career as DC's manager. For now, the club is going to be run, at least temporarily, with Chad Ashton, a caretaker head coach. It's a big switch from Rooney. Rooney is a name synonymous with soccer royalty to Chad Ashton, who basically played 1 year in professional soccer. Now, Ashton has already stated that his goal as caretaker is going to be to bring some stress relief for his players and to try to find the spirit of enjoyment on the pitch. I suspect that Ashton knows his job isn't long, although a long shot rumor has him. There have been rumors that he might be able to hang around this job into next year, given how screwed up the management at the DC front office is. With the DC front office, it's just kind of hard to predict anything that's going on there. And as for Henry Marshall, well, he remembered his agent Hunter Alvarez telling him that one of DC's United's big goals was youth development. So he's hoping that they don't send him down to the academy to get rid of him. But Henry wonders if Wayne Rooney lost faith in him. He had the injury, and then he basically he's barely appeared in these games here, and he's quite confused, doesn't know what to think. There are now only 9 games left in DC United's 2022 season, and they can't come soon enough as far as he's concerned because he is now quite homesick. October 9th, the last game at home against Cincinnati. That is circle on his calendar. Now, he hasn't been quite bullied by the DC United players, but they're more than willing to get in his face if he screws up in practice. Now, the practices aren't very complicated. Henry thought there would be extremely complex drills at the pro level. That really wasn't true. It was the speed and force of the practices that were the real shock to Henry. I mean, players playing two-touch, kicking it around in a square, that's not a hard drill. Just kicking it two-touch, kick in a square pattern, not hard. But pro players can make that drill like clockwork. One DC United player said to Henry hey, you're a young player, but so is Lionel Messi. So that DC United should give Henry the name Messi. And he said, yeah, but in your case, Marshall, I'd spell Messi with a Y. Henry's had to learn all the unspoken rules of football. Where you can sit in the changing room, where you can sit on the bench. Once we was getting on a bus, he was told, "Hey, the school bus is that way. This bus is for players." One time he remembered a player sitting next to him on the bus, asking him questions about his life, and Henry was happy to answer. Then the questions began to get sexual questions. How many girlfriends do you have? And what are your favorite positions in bed? And are you a virgin? And he learned that taught him the other players were just kind of having a laugh at his expense, and he just had to sit there in embarrassment and take it. He's been with the club since June, late May, June for 2 months, and he's already learned that he hasn't earned any respect here at all. I mean, he overheard some of the other players talking, sotto voce. They didn't really care if he heard them or not. That they needed to get Marshall back to kindergarten and let one of the real players play. Fuck Marshall. Put somebody in who knows the game and knows how to win. I mean, the fact that he hasn't been playing any games, that didn't matter. Even on the bench, it was his fault. So the real lesson that Henry's learned in his first 2 months is the only way he'll even earn any kind of minimum respect from the other players, in pro football is to produce. And with producing, he'll survive and he'll become a veteran. But the respect isn't going to come anytime soon. Henry Marshall's learning what it's like to be inside of a losing clubhouse, especially one sitting last place in points in the league, 25th out of 28 teams in attendance. There's a sense that all the personal relationships in the club are now perfunctory because it's the end of the season. They aren't winning. Everybody knows they're expendable. Alex Bono, the club goalkeeper, walked up to Henry Marshall unannounced. He said, "Hey, you want some free advice from me?" And yeah, Marshall said, "I'd like to have some free advice." He said, "Well, don't read Twitter, don't read Facebook, don't read anything online. It'll increase your career a full year if you don't listen to haters." I said that we'd look at some of his contemporaries at DC United. Let's take a look at Martin Rodriguez. I'm pulling out Martin Rodriguez for attention because he has won two Team of the Week selections. Since Henry's been there, he's the only play on this team to win any of them. And he's won. He's a 28-year-old Chilean winger. He was named the MLS Team of the Week twice since Henry Marshall's been there. No other DC players even been named on it once. Rodriguez's his nickname is Tin Rodriguez, and he's played most of his career in Chile and Mexico. And he's only getting about $597,000 a year, which is a bargain for DC United. And then in general, players at DC speak English in the clubhouse, and half the players here are from the United States. However, Rodriguez doesn't really know anything more than rudimentary English. So all Henry can do is he's not going to get any advice from Martin Rodriguez. All he can do is sort of admire how well he does from afar. What we're going to do is we're going to continue playing until a new coach is hired at DC United, a new manager, rather. There are only 9 matches left in the season, between August 13th and October 9th. So there are about 5 points separating DC United from 13th place Columbus. Will Ashton get a chance to pull this club out of the cellar of the Eastern Conference? And will Henry Marshall see any more action for the remainder of the season? Well, we see some things right away here. Julian Calero has dropped out of the hunt. That leaves basically Javier Perez is a possibility. Giovanni Savarese also a possibility. Well, there has been some big unexpected news in DC United's hunt for a replacement manager after firing Wayne Rooney. Chad Ashton only got 1 game as interim manager. This 1-0 loss to LAFC to show his stuff before a new manager was hired. He changed the formation to a simplified 4-4-2. No luck. However, Henry Marshall did get to come in the 77th minute. It's a good signal that Marshall hasn't been forgotten about his club. So, who is the new manager of DC United? That man is John Harkes. who played football for the U.S. national team and in England, and he had a stint at DC United from 1996 to 1998. This is back in the era when DC was winning MLS championships. He was also DC United's head of development from 2003 to 2006. After a long break from soccer, he was the manager of FC Cincinnati for a couple of years, and then he moved on to Greenville in 2018, where he led Greenville to a USL League One championship in 2020. So he has the pedigree that the DC United front office would want: pro player experience, a connection to DC United, youth development, championship managing, at least at the US lower levels. He also had 90 caps as a US team player. I will post a link to the first goal that John Harkes ever scored while playing in the Premier League in the description. It's definitely worth watching. He also has the nickname Captain for Life. This is when former U.S. national team coach Steve Sampson named Harkes as his captain for life, but then left him off the team just before the 1998 World Cup for leadership issues. Harkes' teammate Eric Winalda alleges the leadership issues were that Harkes was having an affair with Winalda's wife, Amy Ward. We'll also add that the U.S. didn't do very well in the World Cup in 1998 after Harkes was removed from the team. Winalda would separate from his wife in 2003, and Sampson would later confirm that the affair was why he removed Harkes from the team in 2016. Harkes has denied the affair, and he has stated multiple times that he's not going to have to rehash the past, and never even mention the alleged affair at all in a biography that he would later write. And in his press conference, Harkes said that this new manager posting he said it was a dream come true. And the DC United fans were generally optimistic. The press didn't ask about a 24-year-old affair application during the conference, but this was a great opportunity for the national soccer press to restore those old burnt embers and to retell all the stories, with the press reaching out to Eric Winalda and Steve Sampson for comment. And what you guys can do who are listening, you can search, look up John Harkes on Wikipedia. Trust me, you'll find a wealth of information and speculation about this affair. Well, anyway, Harkes met the team. He stated his goals for the rest of the season, namely that the rest of the season was not going to be a write-off. It's to get us ready for next season and to see if you're willing to be a part of that. He told the team it would take a couple of years just to clean up the mess, but he was not willing to wait that long. But the days of losing to the Red Bulls and the other teams were going to be over. He said, there's a lot of work to be done. We are going to have the right mentality, and we are going to be successful, and I will do what I can to make this team successful. Now, Henry knew that Harkes was having one-on-one discussions with the players on the team, one-on-one talks with everybody. The reason he knew that is the players were talking about those conversations with each other, and Henry couldn't help but overhear them. And Henry didn't get much useful information, but he wanted to see if Harkes would give him a shot to play on his very first game managing DC United. We're actually going to go this game immediately. The game against Philadelphia at home. This is a game against the number one team, not just the number one team in the Eastern Conference. It's the number one team in the Supporter Shield race. And after that, you've got the number two team in the Eastern Conference, also number two in the Supporter Shield, Atlanta United. So these two are games against the best the MLS has to offer. And it gives the new manager Harkes a chance for big success or big failure. Let's go to the August 20th game. Talking about the MLS clash. 4 straight defeats for DC United, 3 straight wins for Philadelphia. So two teams going in very different directions here. Game should be played on this state to 20th. Let's give it a chance to play through. One of my questions is whether or not Harks is going to keep the 4-4-2 for DC United. All right. Got the game here. And Harks is already, those guys think it's just another game. And DC United managed to get a draw against 10-man Philadelphia. So it looks like Mikhail Ure just started off in the 5th minute with a goal. But then Leon Flach gets a red card in the 7th minute, and from that moment on, the Union are playing in demand. Martin Rodriguez, he scores in the 20th minute. They don't get the win, but at least they get a point off of Philadelphia, which is what they really wanted to have. Take a look at some of the particulars of the game. Let's see. DC actually won the possession battle here. And let's see if they go to the 4-2-3-1 here. Did Marshall? Oh, did he start? Go to the player statistics. And Henry Marshall gets his first ever start for DC United. Not a great game. He kind of hangs in there, a 6.5 match rating, but he wasn't the worst guy out there. Durkin had a 6.4 match rating. 7 shots, only 3. This game was meant to be a tie. Philadelphia really struggled without Flach. And so, what a way to start your first game. The new John Harks era has started with a tie against Philadelphia. Let's see here. Harks was pleased by the performance of Ruan, who's currently playing as a defender wingback. Very happy with that. Philadelphia, the red card controversy. The coach is not comment about it. He didn't want to say anything about that. The day after the draw against Philadelphia, Henry Marshall was called in to talk to his new manager, John Harks. And Harks's main purpose for the talk was to rally Henry. He stated that he put Henry in the back 4 to see how well he would adjust to a new position. And he congratulated him for holding his own for a full 90 minutes. And Harks remembered when he was young, he was a youth All-American. He was a National Player of the Year. And he told Henry that the hard part of this game isn't the expectations. If you're good, the hard part isn't the expectations other people have of you. It's the expectations you have of yourself. And he said that the other coaches had told him that Marshall was doing things right. He was attentive. He was a hard worker. He kept his head up on the field. And Marshall had never had a truly bad game for DC United, just some mediocre ones. And Harks said, so you're going to pull it all together in your head and you're going to be patient doing it. Now, he couldn't promise anything to anyone right now, but he told Marshall this. He said, look, Wayne Rooney thought you were good enough to play at this level. So if you're looking for something to motivate you, don't let the man who picked you to be on DC United, don't let him down now that he's gone. And he asked Henry if anybody was giving him a hard time, and Henry denied it. He said, the first good game you have, people will come around. If they don't come around after that, they'll shut up. They're just looking for an excuse to like you. He also told Henry there was a lot he still needed to do. His conditioning wasn't what it needed to be. And he thought that Henry was a bit too tentative out there, still holding the ball maybe a split second too much and trying to set up a perfect pass. He said, you're accurate, but you just can't hold it for that extra half second out there. They're going to eat you alive. I mean, Philly only had 10 men out there, and we were a last place club. They weren't even trying against us, and they weren't really looking to play an offensive game but a defensive one. He thought that Henry's real problem was assertiveness. You need a bit of swagger at this level. You want to dominate people when you get out on the field. Now, having faith in yourself, that's one thing. But you need to let everybody know one way or the other that you have no doubts in yourself, even if they do. Did you get your learner's permit yet? Hark said. Hey, aren't you almost 16? And Henry nodded yes. He said, you should get the learner's permit. You're going to need that license. I can start looking at driving schools right now. And Harks told Henry to come to him or any of the coaches or Steve Birnbaum, the captain, if he was ever having a serious problem, else they'd talk about it at some future time. He said, and by the way, when you hear from me, it'll probably be me yelling at you because you don't know it all. Not yet. And with that, we end this episode. Hopefully, we'll get to the rest of the season and part of the off season in the next episode. But the change in coaching is enough to devote a full episode to. Anyway, if you like what you hear or see, make a comment or hit the like and subscribe button. Until next time.